phase 3. Now we move on into phase 3. So the first thing with phase 3, and this is today, Route 3 is a pretty long and convoluted beast. It goes from downtown, it heads all the way out towards the Stearns County Government Center, way to the west of St. Cloud and almost west of Wade Park. And then it comes all the way down to Belclair Estates and winds its way all the way back on a giant loop and then comes. It's a 90-minute route. It's a 90-minute cycle time, I should say. That's the time it takes from the bus when it's leaving downtown to that bus comes back downtown and is ready to leave again. It takes an hour and a half. That's a pretty beastly route. So what we tried to do here, try and make it a little more reliable. You know, shorter the route is, more reliable it can be. We have Route 3 coming out the 3rd Street corridor, serving basically everything it serves today en route to the Crossroads Center Mall. It would come out at Crossroads, serve Catholic Charities, and operate, again through that loop. Come back on West St. Germain, and then into downtown. So it basically does a truncated version of today's Route 3, and it would run every 30 minutes in the peak periods, and every 60 minutes otherwise. Hourly on midday and Saturdays and Sundays. 34 is an amalgamation. It's quote unquote new. I mean, a lot of this area is served today. It's not a new service area, but the way it would be served comes out of Crossroads Center. Would serve a lot of the commercial activities, obviously in Wade Park. It would come around the new Menards here and the new hotels that are being built, essentially just behind Menards, for lack of a better term, in Wade Park. And then it would operate through the Parkwood Cinema area, but not quite be on Division Street proper here. Come down, serve the Stearns County Center, and then I think we said TriCap would be served on the way back. After serving Belclair, it would serve TriCap on the way back. It would have to serve the Stearns County Center again, but in the same direction. It always has to operate counterclockwise around Stearns County Center, and come back and do the same thing. And that would be an hourly route, and would operate with the bus. It would operate every hour. It would provide service out there. So Belclair Estate still has maintains its service, but it becomes we want to be very clear here about there's always trade-offs when you're trying to prepare service plans like this. And so the area served by Belclair Estates out there and the Stearns County Center, now they would get to the Crossroads Center Mall and all the retail and commercial opportunities in Wade Park. But if they were going further east, whereas today they have a very long bus ride and they would be on the same bus, they would have to transfer at Crossroads Center to complete that trip with the service plan. But a lot of the through ridership, in some of our discussions, pulsing out of Crossroads makes sense.
So are we going to get are we going to acquire like a storefront or something? Are we going to build something? It sounds like Crossroads is going to be our next transfer center.
Well, it is today.
Right.
And we've had, since 2005, when we built the current stop infrastructure that we have, we've had other routes hub in and out of Crossroads. This will add a couple of additional stops at Crossroads Center. Our stops are built in such a way they can handle it.
Oh.
Again, it brings more customers to them. That was really what the impetus behind how we were able to negotiate the stop at their front door that we have today was we bring a lot of customers in and out of there every day. This has opportunity to increase that. It certainly does.
The long-term plan, I mean, we say in the final report that that will be available, is there's always a section where what are the future areas to look at in terms of what are some future studies that the commission should undertake over the next not immediate, but over the next 4 to 5 years. And one of them is the whole question of the Western area hub, and does it remain long term, does it remain at Crossroads? You still have 10 years on the lease?
Yep, it's 25-year lease.
Right.
Yep.
So 15, I guess. Right?
15 to go.
Right, 15 to go. But after that, it's a real question. The way that the area has kept growing physically and keeps growing physically, as it spreads west and south, etc. It's something to consider. To have that a second hub, or just the fact that it's a significant activity generator in that area. Should there be another location? And that's something to look at longer term. Another on the capital side, just a quick aside on the capital planning side, is as the system keeps growing, there is, also, and we mentioned it also in the report, the consideration of having a reporting location, a storage, maybe not heavy maintenance, that would still be done here at this facility, but the idea of having an overnight storage, line maintenance, washer fluid, topping off fuel, having drivers report, et cetera, to a western garage somewhere in the western side of the service area, so that this way, deadhead time, non-revenue mileage time is reduced as much as possible in the long run. Because, as the system keeps growing and evolving, to have either this route 34, for example, or the 41 out to St. Joseph, those first trips are going to be going closed door from here all the way to Crossroads just to get into service. And it would be nice if they could just bill from somewhere around Wacosa, let's say, or somewhere in Wade Park to get into Crossroads, just to do that.
Give you a little identity.
Rent them part of the city garage.
Yeah.
Well, there was talk, right? There's a new public works facility, I think, being built somewhere in Wade Park.
And hotels and an amphitheater and
There you go.
forget what else.
So Sauk Rapids, this is the last of the fixed routes to talk about. So Sauk Rapids, today, Sauk Rapids, as most folks in this room know, I'm sure, is basically a giant loop route with a stem into downtown St. Cloud. And depending on which direction the loop operates, you're either a 21 or a 22. And people are used to it, and but there is some confusion for new riders. People trying to understand. It's not the way most transit services operate. Is bidirectionally, like we've been making the point throughout the service plan. So what we've proposed for Sauk Rapids, and again, this is the last phase, so this would be one of the last things to do, is the idea of having two different routes, 21 and 22. 21, they would both be bidirectional. 21 would operate from downtown along Wilson and 2nd into Coburn's, the Coburn's area in downtown Sauk Rapids. And then it would operate essentially the southern and eastern parts of the Sauk Rapids loop that are operated today through the Industrial Park, Industrial East, etc., up Industrial Drive, and turn around by the Super America in just east of US 10 in Sauk Rapids. It would come back the same way. You see this additional dogleg that would be on the route right here. That's basically where we're standing right now. Benton County is going to build a service center. They're looking to build a service center next door to Metrobus here. So it's something that we'd want to be able to serve hourly with the proposed Route 21 changes, and then come back into downtown. When you see the lighter blue here, when there's when a couple of times a day there'll be a high school trip that has to go out to the Sauk Rapids High School, which is well east of the existing routes, well east of Industrial Drive. So when that happens, to save time, the route would have to basically take this cut off here on I think that's 14th, and then come around and use Golden Spike to come up to the high school. Similar to what it does today. It actually does that today when it's serving the high school. So that's 21. 22 comes out of downtown, but it would go south out of downtown, cross the Third Street Bridge, Division Street Bridge, come around by Target. So you have another way to connect over to Target besides the east side routes on 22, and then it would come up Lincoln. Now Lincoln, we recognize it's more of an industrial street, but this allows the 22 to serve Dubois Textiles, which is behind us over here. And they've been, again, something that we've heard a lot during the stakeholder outreach process. They've been clamoring for service. And the industrial businesses along here, with a regularly scheduled service, more folks might be able to, their employment pool would grow, but more folks might be able to use Metrobus to get to those businesses. It would also go through downtown Sauk Rapids at the Coburns, and then it would basically come out and run along the river. And come over to City Hall, doing the top, essentially the northern and western sides of the Sauk Rapids loop today, and then come over to Super America and also turn around, but then operate the return service essentially bidirectionally, the same way that 21 would.
So does that Route 22 that goes on Benton Drive, and how far north does that go? What's that street?
Cardinal 29.
Oh, so it's
What it does
Sartell.
today.
So that's where the Country Manor folks.
Correct. That's
Can,
right there, I believe.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, we serve that area today.
Right.
Yeah, this is all, like Tom was alluding to earlier, basically, there's no, let me be very careful, with very minor exceptions, there's like 2 stops on Main Prairie or something. There's no bus stops today that lose service with the service plan. Things get changed around a bit. Some places, will get more service than they have today. They'll get Saturday, Sunday service, etc. But all of this service area is essentially covered today. The only addition on these routes, it's a significant addition, is along Lincoln, and then of course down here to the proposed to the Benton County Services Center.
So
That's a done deal, right? That's going to happen.
That's what we were told.
Okay,
They're
right.
Leasing a space.
Right. If it doesn't, then you would just do the same route you do today on that part of the Sauk Rapids road.
I have a question. Do we currently provide service to the Sauk Rapids High School?
Yep.
3
We do.
times a day.
Really?
Mhm.
I don't mean, it's a side note opinion, but I don't know why it would be, Sartell's lucky our schools are right on a main drag, but it seems like it's the duty of the schools to provide buses for their students, isn't it? Or if you build a school in the middle of nowhere, then,
There's I can't think of the name of the program that
sorry.
There's some
Yeah, we
non-traditional
have to have
students that are using our service to get to the high school.
Go
They-
big,
they-
go basic, yeah.
Well, no, there's another program that's there, but they come in and out at lunchtime.
Oh,
So
okay.
We do a morning run, a midday, around lunchtime, it's around 11:30, and then an after school at 3:30.
Okay.
There's also some workers that are using the bus to go back
Sure.
to high school, so there's a comfort level with the 3 times a day. We don't find it at this point in time necessary to run more than that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a waste if we ran out there like every run.
I guess my
Maybe not
comment
effective.
has more to do with putting high schools in the middle of nowhere than it does providing service. I think that we should provide the service.
Like I said
That's good
earlier,
planning.
and I was only half
Where's yours
joking
going?
when I say land use and transportation are frenemies, and these are one of the things that, and you'll see that's basically the routes that remain unchanged. Let me just point that out quickly. Are some of the SCSU oriented routes, the Husky
Well-
shuttle, day and night. Go ahead, Tom.
Quick question here.
Oh,
Can you
go-
go back to 21 and 22?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I think another change might be now it goes to the government center. With the change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think does the fixed route go to the government center and the post office right now in Sauk Rapids?
The new
About a block away.
Right, the new municipal services building, yeah. Basically, that's right, oh God, my hands are, because it's so cold in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, right there. So what would happen, Kim, is I believe they come,
It's over one more.
it's over here?
It's over, yes, right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, right there.
So on the outbound trip, you'd get about a block away,
Okay.
and then you'd come out to Super America, turn around. On the inbound trip, you'd go right in front
How
of
is it different than like the new version versus the old version?
There'd be service on Summit,
Right.
on the
Right there.
west side of the government service center, the city hall.
So you get closer to the building on that
Closer, yes.
particular
Yeah.
street.
Yep.
On Summit.
Okay, thanks.
That was
Sure.
the goal of the change in Route 22.
The routes remaining unchanged, like I said, the SCSU routes, other than the Clippers, the Husky shuttles, both the day and night versions, the Sundowner, which is it's actually a flex route, it's a demand response service, and then the 94 and 95, which are the late night services.
Drunk buses.
We can call them that, if you wish. Yeah.
The bar rush.
So, post 5 years, some of the things that we just, want to keep in people's minds, this is not, it doesn't mean that it's something that can't be done. It's just something that really, given all that's already on the plate, as you can see, it's quite a bit. We don't think it's something that you want to do right away, which is 2 of the new service areas that came up frequently, 33rd Street South Corridor, where it was proposed, I believe it was not approved, but it was proposed to to move Apollo down there? Tech High School, excuse me. And that was not approved, I believe, which was also one of those issues where, from a service planning standpoint, for the Metro bus system, that would have been a challenge to try and get any kind of regular fixed route service that far south in the service area. And then Opportunity Drive. Opportunity Drive there's some infrastructure issues. How do you get to it? Some of the roads are not necessarily complete by staying within St. Cloud. St. Augusta is still not quite ripe, I guess is the best word to put it, ready for being part of the commission, for example. At least that was our impression with what was going on there. So Opportunity Drive is something that, and St. Augusta, I should have put that as an additional new service area, something that is likely in the longer term after the 5-year planning horizon of the plan. And then also improved spans of service, weekends, and some of the very late night service. When I say very late night, I mean like maybe post midnight to 2 a.m. Those are things that 5 years ago, for example, in the moving forward plan, they were costed out, et cetera, and it's one of the reasons why they looked at, that was like a phase 4 or 5 of that plan. It's one of the reasons why that plan looked so expensive, is that those kinds of spans of service improvements were sort of baked into that, at least in the latter phases. And this one, we've held off on showing those. Now, these are estimates. This is not, this is not gospel. This is not Moses coming down from Hebron with the ridership chiseled into tablets. But essentially, today it's about 2.1 million riders. I know. I just want to be clear. Estimated ridership. We have about 2.1 million riders. This is annual on the Metro bus system, and we expect that it would go up to about 2.5 million. And you can see some of the trade-offs as some of the clippers are moved in different phases, what happens, et cetera. Other routes continue to grow, and you see some of the star routes become very obvious. Routes 1 and 2, which are today the Wade Park Pantown routes. They are still some of the strongest routes in the system. 11 is a pretty strong route, and then of course 91, which is the parking lot shuttle at SCSU. That's also a pretty strong route, and pretty logically you'd expect to see that. I apologize for this. The financial project, Paul and Tom will get into this some more, but essentially what we wanted to do is, and there's some really significant assumptions in here. So again, don't take this as gospel, but we're looking at a system that today we use an average revenue. I think it was about 87 cents a boarding for average revenue to come up with what the existing costs of operating the system, the revenue that is derived. This is just fare box revenue. Let me be clear. What Tom pointed out earlier, when if St. Joseph joins the commission, et cetera, revenues from academic institutions that may want to partner with the commission, et cetera, those are all different from these revenues. But then you see what happens by phase, and then we also just showed a year 5 post phase 3 with a 3% increment increase in that. These revenues and the assumptions that we've made in the final report also, we have not assumed any kind of fare changes other than the transfer policy, which really shouldn't impact revenues all that much, to be frank. We haven't assumed any kind of fare hikes or fare changes or anything like that over the life of the plan. And then the vehicle requirements, basically today it'll go from 24 peak vehicles. This is looking at everything. This is the commuter coach. Commuter coach are the North Star Link. The 40-foot buses, the 35-foot buses, those are the main buses providing the fixed route service. And then cutaways are the smaller buses that are used for fixed route service, not the smaller. They're similar to the DialARide buses, but the DialARide buses we're just showing them separately here. But they're very similar. They look like the airport rental car shuttles, for lack of a better term. And you can see you go from today there's 6 commuter coaches. There would be 6 still in phase 3. The 40-foot buses stay the same. 35-foot buses actually decline by about 1.
We're going to correct that.
And I know this is still in flux. Cutaways go up. For example, the Sartell routes we assume would be used with small buses.
Good, because they look more. It looks like you want to ride them more when they look full.
Right. And then the DialARide vehicles would also increase, because DialARide service, we show some cost assumptions in the final report. It's not here in this presentation, but remember, when we extend the service territory coverage to St. Joseph, DialARide also has to be extended out to St. Joseph. And if we do it on Saturdays and Sundays, which is what we're proposing, then of course they also get DialARide service on Saturdays and Sundays.
And the really good thing about the service to St. Joseph is that in my crystal ball, I anticipate a renovation of Apollo and Tech and a 3rd high school in St. Joe.
Oh. We're going to knock out Apollo and Tech and build one.
Shh. So it feels like a giant prison.
We get that.
Yay. Okay.
So that's it. I mean, that's the
that was a comment.
It's an overview. I mean, it's got maybe a little more detail on the fixed route then
Can
if
you
you're
go-
not familiar with certain fixed routes, then you might be have been ready
Can you go back to
to
the point?
hear. But go.